You walk into your local grocery store, right? And where the pasta used to be, it's just bare metal shelving.
Yeah, totally empty.
Exactly. The rice aisle is completely picked over. You look at like a single bag of flour, and the price is double what it was just last month.
Yeah.
Your stomach drops and your heart rate spikes.
It's a terrifying feeling, honestly.
It really is. Welcome back to Preparing for the Collapse Radio. It's Friday, May 1st, 2026, and if you think long-term about preparedness, this podcast is for you.
And it is a genuinely stressful time out there right now. I mean, we are watching these regional freight and supply chain disruptions hit really hard this spring.
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
Right, and it's stripping away that comfortable illusion of perpetual abundance that we've all been living under for so long.
I'll be honest, even knowing what I know and, being in this space, it's unsettling.
Yeah, of course it is.
Because when you see those logistics chains stumble, your primitive brain immediately kicks in. My instinct, and I know I'm not alone here, you listening right now probably feel it too, my instinct is to sprint down the aisle, max out my credit card, and just throw whatever canned goods I can find into a cart before the guy next to me does.
Right, because panic is a highly contagious disease.
It really, really is. You see someone running, you want to run too.
It absolutely is. And the problem is, panic leads to terrible strategic decisions. You buy things you don't need at prices you really shouldn't pay, using money you probably can't afford to spend.
Yeah, blowing cash you need for rent on like 50 cans of creamed corn.
Exactly. But that is exactly why today's mission is so critical for everyone listening. We need to talk about building robust, bulletproof food security without financially ruining yourself in the process.
Right. And to do that, we are drawing our strategy directly from author Spirit Walker.
Yes, his latest work is just phenomenal.
It really is. He recently published an incredibly timely article titled The Strategic Blueprint for Affordable Food Security.
Such a good piece.
And I should mention right up front, if you want to explore the actual systems we're discussing today, the Forgotten Wisdom blog on the Nomadic Enterprises site is an absolute goldmine.
Oh, yeah, they do fantastic work.
They really do. They are constantly updating their resources on off-grid living, survival, and homesteading. It's just a great place to start.
And Spirit Walker's blueprint, the one we're looking at today, it's the perfect antidote to that grocery store panic you just described.
So,
Well, because his core philosophy is that preparedness isn't about fear, and it certainly isn't about hoarding. It's about freedom.
let's talk about that shift in mindset. Because, freedom feels very different than the anxiety-driven prepping we see all over social media.
Yeah, the whole doom-scrolling mentality.
Exactly.
Spirit Walker brings in this brilliant historical context that grounds the whole concept. If you look back just a few generations, our great-grandparents didn't call this prepping.
Right, they didn't have a special
Press.
word for it.
Exactly. They didn't have a special anxiety-inducing apocalyptic word for having extra food. They just called it being ready for winter.
Oh, that's such a good way to frame it.
Right. It was just the normal seasonal rhythm of human existence. You put things away when the harvest was abundant, so you had them when the ground was frozen.
Yeah, having a root cellar wasn't a survival tactic, it was just life.
Exactly. It's the exact same principle today. We've just outsourced our winter to a really fragile, just-in-time logistics network.
Man, I love that. Outsourced our winter.
Yeah.
So instead of panic buying, Spirit Walker introduces what he calls the one extra item rule.
Yes, this is where the strategy gets really practical.
And the execution is brilliantly simple. You go to the store, you buy your normal Tuesday groceries, but you grab one extra can of beans.
Right. Just one.
Or, one extra bag of rice. It costs you maybe $2 extra per trip.
Right. And here is the psychological and, well, the mathematical magic of why that works so much better than the panic buy. Consistency always beats intensity.
Okay, break that down for me.
So people get paralyzed thinking they need to drop $2,000 at once to be prepared. Like they need to buy an entire bunker's worth of food on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and who has $2,000 just laying around right now?
Exactly. Nobody. But if you buy one extra item a week, you've got over 50 items stored by the end of the year. Make it 5 extra items a trip, and you are quietly accumulating months of food without any massive financial shock.
See, I look at this through a financial lens, and it's identical to the concept of dollar cost averaging in investing.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like, if you want to build a retirement fund, You don't wait until you magically have 100 grand sitting in checking to dump into the stock market.
Because that's never going to happen.
Exactly. Never. You invest a tiny amount consistently from every paycheck. Spirit Walker is basically telling you to dollar cost average your pantry.
That is exactly what you're doing. You are building equity in your pantry.
But I'm going to push back here for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if I'm seeing empty shelves now, in May of 2026, my brain says one extra can of beans isn't fast enough.
I get that. The urgency is real.
Right. I want to buy a 50-pound sack of whatever is cheapest. Let's say I find a screaming deal on 50 pounds of lentils for pennies on the dollar.
Okay, lentils.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I hate lentils. My family refuses to eat lentils. The calories are calories, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I just buy them to secure the baseline?
Actually, Spirit Walker identifies that as one of the most dangerous traps in preparedness. And his answer to that is a hard no.
Wait, really? A hard no to cheap calories.
Absolutely. And it all comes down to the realities of human psychology under stress. When a crisis hits, whether it's an extended power outage or, a severe supply chain failure like we're seeing, your cognitive load is already maxed out.
Yeah, you're worried about 100 different things.
Exactly. You are dealing with a radically altered environment. And under that kind of severe stress, human beings biologically crave familiarity.
So, forcing my family to eat a massive bowl of plain lentils every night is just going to make everything worse.
It creates completely unnecessary psychological friction. There is an actually documented phenomenon called appetite fatigue.
Appetite fatigue. Okay, what is that exactly?
So if you try to survive on a single, unfamiliar, unpalatable ingredient, like your 50 pounds of lentils, your brain will eventually just reject it.
Just says no.
Yeah. People will literally suffer malnutrition with a pantry full of food because they simply cannot force themselves to eat another bowl of it.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying.
It is. That's why Spirit Walker's rule number 1 is non-negotiable. Only store what you actually use.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Don't add internal dietary stress to external crisis stress.
Precisely. Keep things as normal as possible.
So, if not giant bags of lentils we hate, what should we be dollar cost averaging into our carts?
He identifies what he calls the core 4 calorie anchors.
The core 4.
Yeah. These are your foundational building blocks: rice, beans, oats, and pasta.
Okay, pretty standard staples.
They are. They are cheap, highly flexible in recipes, and if you understand the science of storage, they are incredibly shelf-stable.
Let's get into that science, actually, because this is where a lot of people ruin their investments.
Oh, people make huge mistakes here.
Yeah, like you can't just take that cardboard box of pasta or that thin plastic bag of rice and shove it in a hot garage for 5 years.
Exactly. The real enemies of long-term food storage are oxygen, moisture, heat, and pests.
The 4 horsemen of the pantry.
Right. If you don't manage those variables, your investment will oxidize, it'll mold, or it'll be eaten by weevils before you ever even open it.
Gross, but true.
And you can't rely on the store packaging. Standard grocery store plastic is actually porous at a microscopic level.
Really? It lets air in.
It does. It lets oxygen and moisture seep in over time.
So what's the mechanical solution Spirit Walker recommends? How do we actually do this?
You need a multi-layered defense. First, you transfer the dry goods into Mylar bags.
Mylar, like those shiny balloons.
Sort of, yeah. Mylar isn't just tough plastic, it's a metallized film. It creates an impenetrable barrier at the atomic level against oxygen and light.
Oh, wow.
But here's the catch. There's already oxygen inside the bag with the food when you pour it in, so you have to drop in an oxygen absorber before you seal it.
And how do those actually work? Are they just vacuuming the air out?
Not exactly, no. It's cooler than that. Oxygen absorbers are basically little packets of iron powder and a tiny bit of moisture.
Iron powder.
Yeah. When you seal them in the Mylar bag, a chemical reaction occurs. The iron physically rusts.
Seriously, it rusts.
It rusts, and the process of rusting chemically consumes all the free oxygen inside that sealed environment.
That is fascinating.
It's science. And once the oxygen is gone, aerobic bacteria and insects simply cannot survive.
Because they suffocate.
Exactly. Then you put those sealed Mylar bags into sturdy food-grade buckets to protect them from rodents and physical punctures.
So the bucket is armor, the Mylar is the seal, and the absorber kills the oxygen.
You got it. If you execute those mechanics properly, you are effectively stopping the clock. You can store that food safely for 20 to 30 years.
That is incredible. Decades of security for pennies on the dollar?
Yep. It's the ultimate insurance policy.
All right, so we've got our bulk carbs, Our core four securely locked in buckets.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be real. We just talked about appetite fatigue. Surviving on a bucket of plain rice is going to absolutely destroy your morale.
Oh, it would be miserable.
We need protein and we need nutrients. But protein is usually where a prepper's budget goes to die, right?
It is the most expensive part of the pantry, usually.
So how do we build a nutritionally complete diet without blowing the cash we just saved on the rice and beans?
Well, the problem with protein, specifically the fats in protein, is that it goes rancid much faster than dry carbohydrates.
Right, oil goes bad.
Exactly. So you can't just throw a steak in a Mylar bag.
Please don't do that.
Definitely don't. The common prepper solution is freeze-dried meat, which lasts decades but costs an absolute fortune.
Like hundreds of dollars for a single can sometimes.
It's absurd. So Spirit Walker's strategy here is to bypass that trap entirely. He says, build it in layers, start cheap, and start accessible.
So we're talking about standard canned goods.
Yes, build a foundation with items like tuna, canned chicken, chili, Spam, and corned beef.
Just the normal stuff from the grocery store.
Right. The canning process is an incredible preservation technology that has been proven over a century.
And he gives a very specific, measurable target for this in the article, doesn't he?
He does. He says aim for a target of 12 of each of those items.
12 cans of tuna, 12 cans of chicken.
Right. If you think about it, 12 represents one per month for a full year. It's a highly attainable goal.
Oh, that breaks it down so nicely.
You secure that baseline of affordable protein first. Only once that base is built do you allow yourself to look at the higher-end, long-term survival meals. Bulk first, quality later.
That prevents you from making the classic mistake of buying, one incredibly expensive bucket of freeze-dried beef stroganoff and then having zero budget left for anything else.
Exactly. You don't want to be eating beef stroganoff one night and starving the next 30.
Right. But beyond protein, Spirit Walker emphasizes that calories and macros alone won't carry you. You need vitamins and you need sanity.
This brings us to canned fruits and vegetables. Corn, peas, carrots, green beans.
All the classics.
And crucially, the sweet stuff, peaches, pears, pineapple. This leads to what I think is Spirit Walker's most profound insight in the entire blueprint.
Let's hear it.
He says food isn't just fuel, it's morale.
Food isn't just fuel, it's morale. I think that's the defining quote of this whole approach.
It really is. It alters your entire psychological state. There's a massive gulf between merely eating to survive and eating to live.
Yeah, eating just to stop the hunger pangs.
Right. When you are just shoveling bland calories into your mouth to keep your heart beating, you are barely surviving. It degrades your mental state over time.
You feel like a machine.
Exactly. But when you sit down to a meal that has flavor, texture, and warmth, especially in the middle of a frightening crisis, it restores your humanity.
It gives you a moment of normalcy.
It does. It triggers dopamine. It gives you the psychological resilience to wake up and actually face the problems of the next day.
Which perfectly sets up what Spirit Walker calls the hidden power of the pantry.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
The spice rack. This is how we defeat appetite fatigue. We're talking about salt, sugar, flour, oil, bouillon, vinegar, baking powder, and baking soda.
The absolute essentials.
I like to think of this with a computer analogy. Your bulk carbs, your buckets of rice and beans. Those are the hardware of your pantry.
Okay, I like where this is going.
They are massive. They are essential. You can't run the system without them. But sitting by themselves, they don't do much.
They're just a pile of parts.
Exactly. The spices, the oils, the bouillon. That is the software. The software is what makes the hardware actually run, perform beautifully, and deliver an experience you actually want to engage with.
The software of the pantry. That is the perfect way to look at it.
Right. Rice is just the motherboard.
It is. A few cubes of beef bouillon, some salt, and a splash of oil completely rewrites the code of that bowl of rice.
It really does.
It transforms it from a grim necessity into a genuinely comforting dinner. You need those flavor multipliers to make the heavy carbs palatable day after day.
Okay, so we have our hardware, we have our software, we have the canned protein layers.
We are looking pretty good.
But all of this dry food, all this bouillon, requires one absolute non-negotiable element to actually cook and consume.
Yep, the big one.
You can't boil pasta and hope. We need water.
And this is where the logistics get very real very fast.
So what's the rule of thumb here?
Spirit Walker lays out the baseline rule: 1 gallon per person per day.
A gallon a day.
Yeah. Half a gallon for drinking and half a gallon for cooking and basic hygiene.
If you are listening to this in your car right now, just do the mental math for a second. If you have a family of 4, You're looking at 28 gallons of water just for a single week.
It's heavy, and it takes up so much space.
Storing that volume is intimidating.
It is, and if you go out and buy fancy pre-packaged emergency water bricks, it's insanely expensive.
Oh yeah, they charge a premium for those.
But Spirit Walker gives us an affordability hack. You don't have to buy specialty water containers.
What do you use instead?
You can reuse clean food-grade containers like heavy-duty juice bottles or soda bottles. Just thoroughly wash them, fill them with tap water, and store them in a cool, dark place.
Wait, hold on. Won't tap water go bad sitting in a closet for 2 years?
Well, water itself doesn't expire, but biological contaminants can grow in it if it's exposed to light or heat.
So it can get slimy.
Yeah, it can. But here is where Spirit Walker makes a crucial, life-saving distinction.
Okay.
Storing water in your closet is great for a 3-day disruption. But true, long-term water security isn't just about storage.
What is it about?
True security is about access and purification, because eventually, no matter how many juice bottles you have stashed under the bed, your stored water will run out.
So you need the ability to take water from a questionable source, like a rain barrel, a nearby creek, or even a compromised city tap, and make it safe to consume.
Exactly. You have to be able to process water. And Spirit Walker specifically recommends proven filtration systems like Sawyer and Berkey.
I've heard great things about both of those.
They are industry standards, and it's really important to understand how these work. They aren't just charcoal flavor filters like the pitcher you have in your fridge right now.
Right, those just make it taste better.
Exactly. These are gravity-fed or pressure-fed systems with microscopic pores. We're talking submicron filtration.
Submicron? That sounds intense.
It is. The pores in the filter medium are physically smaller than the bacteria and protozoa. Pathogens literally cannot pass through the barrier.
They just get stuck.
Yes. That is what separates true water independence from just hoping your bottled water lasts until the government turns the pipes back on.
Don't just stockpile. Equip yourself to process. I love that.
It's the only sustainable way.
Now, once you have the food, the spices, and the water filtration, Spirit Walker introduces the final concept that ties the entire blueprint together.
The keystone of the whole system.
He calls it the living pantry,
The living pantry is the ultimate antidote to the buy and forget mentality.
which so many people fall into.
Oh, constantly. You don't just seal this food in a dark basement and ignore it until the apocalypse. You live from it.
Hence the name.
Right. You eat what you store what you eat, and you constantly rotate the oldest items to the front. As you use an item on a Tuesday, you simply replace it on your next grocery run.
See, this solves the exact problem I ran into a few years ago.
Oh, did you lose a stash?
I did. I spent way too much money on a pre-made survival kit, shoved it under the stairs, felt incredibly proud of myself, and then found it 5 years later and realized all the fats had gone rancid and it was basically garbage.
Oh man, that hurts.
I threw hundreds of dollars straight into the dumpster.
And that's exactly what Spirit Walker is trying to prevent.
The living pantry prevents that massive financial waste because nothing ever degrades. You are actively consuming it.
Exactly. It makes your preparedness functional and familiar.
Yeah.
You are essentially operating your own personal, decentralized grocery store in your house.
That's a great way to put it.
So when the regional supply chain stumbles, like we are seeing right now, you don't panic. You don't rush to the store.
You just shop from your own shelves.
Yes. Knowing that you've built a buffer between your family and the chaos outside.
It's preparedness as a lifestyle rather than preparedness as a one-time chore.
Precisely.
But look, doing this the right way requires gear, right? And getting all that gear at once can feel just as financially overwhelming as buying all the food at once.
It really can. High-quality gear isn't cheap.
That's actually why I appreciate the Forgotten Wisdom section on the Nomadic Enterprises site so much.
Oh, they are fantastic for this.
They don't just curate incredible gear, they solve the financial barrier of acquiring it.
They really do. It's a holistic approach to independence. And they've structured their entire payment system to align with that dollar cost averaging philosophy we talked about earlier.
Exactly. If you need to build out your capability, they accept major credit cards, but they also use PayPal, which includes the Pay Later and Pay in 4 methods.
Which is so helpful for bigger ticket items.
It is. Plus, they offer really flexible options via partial.ly. So if you realize you need a serious off-grid power product to keep your lights on, or a heavy-duty water filtration setup, you don't have to ruin your monthly budget.
You get the gear now, and you spread the cost out responsibly over time.
And their inventory goes way beyond just the basics. I mean, they are a true one-stop shop.
They have everything.
Just to give you an idea of the variety, they have car accessories and tools for mobility, serious coats and jackets to keep you warm if the grid goes down in winter.
Very important.
They have garden seeds to start growing your own calories, and a massive selection of hiking, backpacking, and camping gear.
Oh, and don't forget the home stuff.
Right. They even have home decor, hunting and fishing supplies, pre-made kits, gift baskets, outdoor home and garden supplies. It's wild.
And you know what else? They also carry sports, games, and crafts.
Really, games and crafts.
Yeah. Which ties directly back into Spirit Walker's point about morale. Keeping your mind occupied is just as important as keeping your stomach full.
100%. You can't just stare at the wall for weeks.
No, you'll go crazy.
And speaking of keeping your mind engaged, I want to enthusiastically recommend author Spirit Walker's Preparing for the Collapse book series.
Oh, absolutely essential reading.
If you found today's breakdown of his article helpful, having the actual book series in your physical library is an absolute must.
Truly.
There is a special sale going on right now, and we have put the direct link to purchase the series right down in the episode description. Go click that link and get these books on your shelf before the next supply chain hiccup delays shipping.
Having physical reference material when the internet goes spotty is invaluable.
Oh, completely.
I mean, you can't Google a water filtration tutorial when the cell towers are down.
Exactly. You need the hard copies in your hand.
And, you know, looking at everything we've discussed today, it brings me to a final thought I want to leave everyone with.
Please, share it.
So, author Spirit Walker taught us today that the spice rack is the software. It's the key to morale in our pantry. It's what turns raw survival into a human experience.
Right.
But looking beyond food, if the grid goes down, if the screens go dark, what is the spice rack for your mind?
Oh, I like that.
What non-survival items, you know, books, board games, musical instruments, hobbies, what are you storing right now that will separate simply surviving from truly living?